You might have recently come across a new cover by Unpragmatic Covers of the song Blow Me Away by Breaking Benjamin. Well, I made that video. Hi, I'm Siklov, or Silu for short, and today I'm here to tell you what decisions went into it and how I approached making the video. I think we should start by explaining why we even made the video to begin with. It's actually quite simple. I saw a comment in one of the covers asking for a Blow Me Away cover and now it would be cool if they made the RuneScape music video for it as well. I thought, sure, why not, it would be fun. Thus, Unpragmatic Covers got everything sketched out when it came to the song and I just worked on the video. So now with that out of the way, let's actually get on how I actually made the video. This is a general look into the behind the scenes of how I approached everything, and there is definitely gonna be some moments where I'm gonna ruin the magic. So this video is more for people that are interested in the decisions I took and why. If I want to make a RuneScape music video and I want it to be recognizable as such, I need to understand how they are made and how they look like. So I went ahead and watched a lot of RuneScape music videos. I spent a good 4 to 5 hours watching, and keep in mind, I already grew up watching them to begin with, so while I was watching I took a couple of notes that reflected the parameters, if you will, of what makes a RuneScape music video and came up with a little list. Most of them were actually recorded with Camtasia 4. Yeah, for the dismay of many people, most were actually recorded with Camtasia, not with Hypercam 2. Most of them were edited using Vegas, usually versions between 6 and 8. They use a lot of flashes. Like, this was their bread and butter pretty much, like seriously, I cannot understate how many flashes they actually used. On top of flashes, they also used a lot of different effects. Among those, camera zooms, camera pans, those were usually the most common. Outside of camera movement, the other common effects usually messed with the colors of the video, such as, well, flashes, overly interpretation of the lyrics. Yeah, this one should be obvious. If there is any emote that can reflect the lyrics of the song in a literal manner, they would use that. Funnily, most things would be related to actual emotes, so in the case you didn't actually have an emote that reflected the lyric, you would just do an unrelated but still cool emote. In the case both of those were not viable, you would just record something with someone else, usually related to PvP or just doing an emote at the same time, for example. Fast pace. Most clips don't really last more than 2 seconds, and if they do, it's to put emphasis on them because they are important or you don't have much to do with them besides that one thing. Other than that, most clips last less than 1 second in most cases. Camera movement also helps the footage feel faster, which is why most RuneScape music videos abuse effects. While effects look cool, it does a fantastic job of helping with the pacing. And lastly, fashionscape is important. RuneScape music videos are supposed to look cool, and back in the olden days, cool meant you were good at the game. Most gear that looks cool, or people perceived it so, was gear that was in-game, rare, or most people did not have access to it. This was mostly 99 capes, clue items, PVM gear like barrows and weeps, and things of the sorts. The consistency between characters is also important, as you don't want to change your outfit in every clip. Now that we have all the notes from the RuneScape music videos, that allows us to set some guidelines on how to approach it. This doesn't mean they are rules you need to follow, but more so objectives on how to approach the project. These derive from the knowledge we gathered previously and our artistic vision as well as skill. Here are some of the ambitions that I had for this project. Recording with Hypercam 2. Obviously, it would have been a mess. However, and to be truthful, I didn't. What you see in the video is simply a screenshot overlay. Sorry to break it to you. However, it's a pretty old software and I didn't find any place to download it that didn't look sketchy. On top of that, I use Windows 10 and older software on newer operating systems don't tend to be very stable or work at all. As a result, while I would have loved to use it, especially because it would provide the same visual quality as the clips I saw in the old RuneScape music videos, I decided to just record with OBS and take care of the quality in editing and rendering. I cannot understate how important the low quality actually was for me. If I want to make a nostalgia trip to the videos of old, I need the quality to resemble them, and since that is one of the biggest things people remember from it, I really put that at the top of my priorities. Low quality and crunchiness were a must, but for now, OBS is what we ended up using. Vegas for editing. Much like the previous point, that was important for the quality of the visuals, and while it would be a cool experiment, much like Hypercam 2, not easy to get your hands on it, so I ended up using DaVinci. Capping FPS at 24. I usually record and edit at 60, while I absolutely forgot to change the recording frames in OBS, or changing the FPS in-game. I did edit at 24, so that's something. The reasoning here is because I wanted to achieve that choppiness that older videos had. 60 FPS was but a dream back then, and again, much like the quality, this was a must for the RuneScape music video if I wanted to honor the original. No flashes. Yes, I get it, it's a staple, but quite frankly, I'm somewhat photosensitive as I don't feel comfortable with it, and I really didn't want to give someone a seizure, so for the sake of people with less good eyeball receptors, I decided to just not do any flashes whatsoever. Scene from Boomer Twins. Obviously, if I want to sort of make a callback, why not reference one of the most well-known, if not the most well-known RuneScape music video of this song? While some people talk about scenes, in reality only the shadow on the wall part is a reference. The rest is just a coincidence because, well, I did follow certain rules like the over-literal interpretation of the lyrics, and the game doesn't really have that many emotes to begin with, so a lot of the scenes just ended up being similar. I also did watch a lot of RuneScape music videos, so obviously a lot of the scenes are influenced by not necessarily Boomer Twins, but just RuneScape music videos in general, which means that they end up being way more similar than I actually intended to begin with. Slower pacing. The fast-paced nature of the RuneScape music videos is important, but this is for the original songs. Rock songs like that tend to be bombastic. The old school RuneScape sound font is very much not. Ultimately, I'm doing a video to adorn the cover, not the other way around. The cover itself is the spotlight. The video is just set dressing. It's there to aid the cover, not to take away from it. So, while I did watch a lot of RuneScape music videos to learn how to do stuff to honor them, more importantly, I had to take creative liberties in order to honor the cover much more, and slowing things down so the video would better reflect the cover was a must. This means not getting as much, using less effects, and letting current clips go on for that little bit longer. As I mentioned in step 1, effects can increase the feel of the song when it comes to pacing, and well, they can also slow it down. No lyrics. I wasn't sure at the beginning, however as the project evolved, this was the right call. While I was afraid people would think it's just a silly video and lyrics would help clear any confusion that it was supposed to be a RuneScape music video, the old school RuneScape sound font doesn't really have singing, and thus I felt that lyrics actually would be more out of place and take away from the song. Again, the point here is that the video is aiding the cover while paying homage to the originals. The video shouldn't detract from the cover, but do everything to respect it and elevate it. And lastly, older RuneScape music videos. Over the years, people got better at editing and filming, and as a result, some of the RuneScape videos are actually really good. They have really good editing and have overall very high quality. I didn't want this. I wanted the RuneScape music videos to look more on the 2006/2007 side than the 2010 to 2011 side. Thus, it looking somewhat amateur was something I actually paid a lot of attention to. Thankfully, I already have experience here, so this was a bit easier. Much like what I did in Born to Do This, the video clip I made for the RuneScape song Born to Do This, what you want to do here is to simply go through the song and just timestamp everything. This is where the actual setup and pacing of the song happens. I'm not gonna go over the entire breakdown, but let me give you an example from the beginning here. As you can see, I have the timestamps for how long the clips are gonna last by stating where they start and end, and what the clip is even going to be. Until now, while we have the conscious of how we are going to make the video, we still don't really know what the video is going to be. Here is where you do that. You do this, so when you move on to the next steps, you understand what you need, how you are going to do it and approach it, and what type of pacing the song will have. To give an example on the pacing here, let's take the 0:46 to 0:50 second portion of the song. The lyrics to it are, "Fire your guns, it's time to run." So, where in RuneScape can you fire guns? Well, nowhere, but I figured the Temporos Cannon was actually a good candidate. I did this for the entire song, and to the parts where you don't have lyrics, you just figure something that, you know, goes along with the vibe. The breakdown at 2 minutes, for example, yeah, sure, there are no lyrics, but that's where, you know, the song sort of goes into this heavier, darker tone, so I decided to build a bit of an entire scene with the PKing parts. Now, I'm naming this portion in pacing the 0.46 second to 0.50 second one more specifically, not the breakdown at 2 minutes, because as you can see in the screenshots, this was supposed to be 2 different clips. I ended up having them as only 1 clip, which prevented a cut between 2 clips. So since it's only 1 clip, the pacing doesn't feel as fast because it's, well, 1 clip instead of 2. These are just some examples of what went to the song breakdown. I would call this the skeleton of the song, where you establish the pacing and the content of the song. This is what you're going to be using for the rest of the project as a reference. We have everything planned now, so obviously it's time to get into the fun part of the project, actually recording the video. First up, get your fashionscape ready. For me, I like the angler's outfit, the way it combines with a fishing cape, and carrying around the staff from Stronghold of Security, which, as far as fashionscape goes, I feel it's very underrated. Now, pro tip, try to avoid green outfits, because some stuff is much easier to do by just green screening it on top of where you want the footage to go, and a green outfit will make that a bit of a nightmare, so lesson learned there for me. Once you get that sorted, well, you just go in and record. Ideally you want to get multiple shots. I used Oculus Orb for some shots, especially if I wasn't involved in them. Detached camera, which is how I actually achieved the shot at the Berthorpe games room, where neither me nor the other player are in the center of the shot, or just record the normal screen. I had at some points use resizable because of the UI, for example at Temporos, which if you have fixed, you would not be able to almost record anything without a UI being in the fucking way. Jagex, the UI is too big, please fix it. Other than that, this is, you know, a pretty simple part of the project, not much else to say here. Most of it is just the creativity on how you can record some things with the camera in game, but again, for a RuneScape music video, you really don't need to go that hard on it. And we have finally arrived at the last step. We have everything, time to put it all together. If the song breakdown is the skeleton and getting the footage is the meat, the editing is the glue that puts the meat and the skeleton together. Now, excuse me here because I will need to go into a bit of live commentary. I'm not gonna go exhaustively over everything. I'm just gonna go over some things that I want to mention and I found most interesting and some of the effects I used. Hello, so I'm here on the live commentary of the editing. I'm gonna go over some things, but I'm not gonna go over everything because otherwise it would be a bit extensive. Also, apologies for this. I don't know where the fuck I moved the air guitar GIF that I had, so I don't... yeah, all of this is red. Anyway, so, first things first, and I think that by far the most important effect that we need to talk about is this one, JPEG damage. This, I could achieve low quality, I could not achieve the crunchiness that this offered, and just look at the difference between them. Yeah, just, this looks way smoother than this. So this was actually like my saving grace. Every single clip in the entire video uses it. Every single one. We can go here, we can go here, here, here. All of them have the JPEG damage. They might have others, but all of them have the JPEG damage. Every single one has the JPEG damage. Another thing that you're probably realizing here is that when I click on most of the things, most of the effects, they only have the JPEG damage, or they sometimes have another effect, but that's it, only 1 to 2 effects per clip. The reason here is very simple. I did not want to, again, have an overabundance, because as I've talked previously, pacing. This is a cover, the song is more toned down. Again, as you can see, the clips actually last for several seconds as opposed to constant cuts. Effects, same thing. I want it to be slow paced, therefore I'm not going to be using a lot of effects. So another important thing here that I achieved was, as you can see, there's camera movement. The camera movement was, I don't know if there's an effect for it, but the camera movement, I did this, like I just keyframed everything manually. You know, like I just set it and then I set different values, and then you have the values that sort of go in and whatnot. And yeah, that's how I achieve camera movement in every single clip. A lot of clips have camera movement. That's like the most common thing, is just camera movement, zoom ins and whatnot. Very few clips don't actually have it. So this one doesn't, but this one does, this one does, this one does, this one doesn't, this one does, this one doesn't, this one does, this one does, this one does. You get the point, right? A lot of them do have that that sort of camera movement, and it was by far the effect that I most used because it helps give pace. Because if I can, let me grab a clip that is kind of smallish. Sure, we can do this, for example. I think it's a good example. So we take away the keyframes. There we go. So this is the normal clip. It's too static, you know what I mean? Like, while yes, I want sort of a slower pace, this right here is no pace at all. As you can see, absolutely no pace. There's just nothing happening at the moment. So yeah, I used that a lot. Another thing that I ended up using quite a bit as well was, if I can find one that actually has it, yeah, this one has it, okay, was this thing right here, brightness slash contrast. So to adjust the brightness and the contrast, can you play it? I guess that's what I should do. Well, whatever, fucking, I know I didn't do it. Oh, there I go. So as you can see, the brightness getting changed. It's kind of important. Again, it was the other thing that I used quite a bit, as it just helps, honestly. It changes the color. Again, it can give a bit more movement, quote unquote, to the video, without necessarily changing too much about it, or without being too abundant in the terms of how it changes everything. Just, you know, brightness, there we go, easy like that. So next up, the shadow on the wall part. It's what I want to talk about next. Essentially, I kind of messed up. What I should have done is just record my character walking in the POH, because the grass is super green, so you could then essentially just green screen that and put it over this footage, and it would have been much easier, because all you would have to do is just darken the clip, and that was it. Unfortunately, because I'm very smart and I didn't remember that that was an option, what I ended up using was the color tab here. Now, as you can see, there's little points there. That is what I used to create a mask. So essentially it's like a little, you know, perimeter, if you will. And as you can see down here, every single one of those things is essentially just a keyframe of the mask changing. I did pretty much all of them manually, because unfortunately, while this does have a auto track feature, it didn't track properly. Far from it. And that's why it sort of looks choppy. But yeah, obviously I went like the worst route to it, because this is by far one of the most complicated ways to do this, and as a result it took me like hour and a half, 2 hours of just straight up manually changing every little thing so the mask would fit. And when it inevitably didn't actually end up how I wanted, now the original thing was going to be this super dark, so I think contrast, yeah, so I was going to do it super dark. Problem, as you probably have seen here, yeah, that. So as a result, what I ended up doing was, so contrast, I have contrast around here. I don't remember the exact number, but around there, essentially. And what I did instead was I added a little effect to it. This effect that you see here, I also manually framed everything. So the effect goes as, it's this thing. So as you can see, this is a thing that you can do. So what I did is I went frame by frame, essentially. So I went frame by frame, and I increased it. I would go to another frame, increased it again, again, and then I would essentially inverse and decrease it every frame until I created this effect. So that's how I sort of went around. Again, while I did want to do a little bit of a recreation shot by shot, I ended up deciding, I think this looks better. Another thing that I want to touch on here is this has the effect called Edge Detect. And here it's not completely blended, not this one. This one, as you can see, it's not completely blended, as if you this is no blend at all, this is completely blended. So if I go to the original like that, I kinda did it accidentally because I was just dragging effects to see how it looked, and eventually I landed on this. It wasn't full blend, so I was like, hey, actually this skeleton looks pretty fucking cool. So I just essentially did it, and because the HP cape emote is this sort of like going through stages, I just flicked it on and off, and I think it looks really cool. I really like this clip for the simple fact that it's actually really, I think it's really smooth, like especially this part. Outside of the fact that it's a bit off-center, I think that it's just too smooth, a bit too smooth for the amateur nature that I was going for. But yeah, again, this effect, honestly, I always had trouble, especially in GIMP, trying to find a way to use it. I think here it just worked out so well. And lastly, what I want to go over, at least the clip that I want to go over, is the breakdown. So the breakdown as a sort of DAW, you know, thing in the chorus, and then it's just instrumental. There's no lyrics. What am I gonna do? Well, first of all, I thought, let's just do something related to PKing, because usually that's like what a lot of clips back in the day had, and it looks cool, and that's what I ended up doing here. And I did this entire scene, right? I just did an entire scene. Now, here is where the die part happens, like I think around there or something, and I wanted, as a result, my character to die there, but then I thought, no, actually, you know what, I gotta like build up, you know, I need to build up until eventually there's a payoff, right? So, normal clip, you know, and then a little bit faster, and then much faster, and then, you know, like the song here, like you can hear it like getting darker, right? Like it gets darker, so, you know, lower brightness, clear danger coming for you, right? Different shots, you gotta hold it, you gotta have different shots, they're slowed down, you know, to like create that tension. And then the release, by specking someone, you increase the brightness a little bit for like the flare effect type thing, you know, the wow effect. You repeat it a bit more times, this is just the normal speed now, and then here, the death finally, and then the rest of the breakdown when the tension has been released, and then here the transition to the normal song again. So that's how I did the breakdown. And again, I just wanted to create some of sort of like a tense moment where it would actually build up rather than just being a single clip. I wanted it sort of a scene, right? So we go from normal to a bit faster, different perspectives, even faster to create tension, and then like darkness, you know, like coming for you type thing, and then the specs. So it creates an entire thing where you go, like, it's sort of like a scene, an entire scene, as opposed to just a normal clip. And lastly, what I want to actually talk about, that is not related to anything or any specific section of the video, are the mistakes. So this one I only noticed later on, but here there's a mistake with the syncing between the song, because if you listen to it, the ARP becomes more prominent here. So the problem here is that, oh, I messed with the opacity of that. Whatever, this is supposed to be like this. So the harp essentially starts here, meaning that these should actually be here, and this clip should not be here. So, bit of a mistake there, but I only noticed that later. There are some clips that I've noticed before I released the video, so there's this one, for example. If you notice anything that shouldn't be there, yeah, that should not be there. Again, I'm trying to create tension until the spec, not by giving it away. Unfortunately, I actually did realize this before before the video went live, after I rendered it, and I was like, whatever, like if I want to create this sort of amateur vibe of, you know, kids that just came from school and meet their friends in RuneScape and they say, yeah, like I really like this, so yeah, let's create a RuneScape music video, you know, like there's obviously gonna be an amateur side to it. And as I said, I wanted more of the 2006-2007 vibe of RuneScape music videos, which tend to be more crude, more rough around the edges, with some of these mistakes, than, you know, the super sleek 2011 ones. So there are a couple of mistakes like this is in the video that I completely fucked up. There's one in the... I think it's here. Okay, might not be here, but whatever. Like, there's a Canon clip here that is actually desynced. Yeah, it's here actually. So the transition of the song starts here, but the clip is a bit later to it. But yeah, like, there's a couple of those mistakes, but again, I wanted to somewhat make it amateur, so that's what I end up with. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, I'm not gonna go over every single clip, every single little decision, how I did everything. Yeah, but that's the gist of it, of what I wanted to talk about. Honestly, it was a project that I had a lot of fun working on, and I actually ended up learning quite a bit and gaining quite a bit of experience. I tend to mostly rely on narrative, storytelling, scripting, and if I need any fancy footage, in-game camera work. I would rather try to get a cool in-game shot and spend like 30 minutes trying to get it, rather than quote-unquote fixing it in post type thing, as I'm not really a great editor. So working on these actually allowed me to explore a lot of the editing related effects and mess with them while learning. As for future videos, I did see some people asking for more RuneScape music videos, as well as these might have opened the door for RuneScape music videos in general, which I'm totally down for. I really wouldn't mind working on more videos, however, I don't really want them to become very commonplace. Not only do I think they should be done more in, special occasions for special songs, I also make my own videos, and while this entire thing took me like between 20 to 30 hours to make, which isn't much, creatively speaking it took a lot of energy. So really, it's down to if Unpragmatic Covers wants to do more in the future, and if I'm available to do them. Anyway, that's it for me. Thanks everyone for the support on the video. I did read every comment, and even though I was kinda anxious before its release, thinking people might hate it, I'm glad people ended up enjoying it a lot. So yeah, thanks for the kind words.